Well, speaking of, he's joining us as he's getting ready to cover the Bengals. He does so brilliantly each and every single day on a multitude of platforms, and that's James Rapien. So, James, good morning. A happy Friday to you. You actually get to hang out a little bit and not have to travel up to Cleveland. When are you going up there? You going Sunday or are you going Monday morning?
Sunday, because I have some friends up there, so it'll be nice to catch up and eat some
that's
good
right.
food,
Your
even
old
though it's gonna
stomping
be
ground.
chilly.
How could I forget? I mean, you got it going on up there. All right, James, your thoughts on the whole Jamar Chase injury?
Where do you start? I mean, first off, outside of Joe Burrow, most valuable player on the team, arguably the best player on the team, and so it's awful news, right? And you start there because the offense was hitting its stride. It felt like there was a chance, and there still is, but a chance that Burrow was going to make an MVP push, that Chase was going to, be much better over the next 10, 11 games than he was as a rookie and just as explosive. And this team was, shaping up into form. And not that can't still happen. It's just going to be in a different way now. And, my first thought was, man, 22 years old, on a record-setting pace for the second straight year, 4 touchdowns the past 2 weeks, and now he's out. And so you feel bad for him. And then you think about it from a team aspect and all of those things. So it's awful news. Fortunately, it doesn't sound like he needs surgery, which you guys were kind of hinting towards there as I came on. So that's certainly good news long-term for Jamar Chase. Short-term, they're going to have to change the way this offense is running.
Do you get any feel, and I know, James, this story came out very late yesterday afternoon. You go back to the Saints game when he initially injured it. He was on the injury report, sat out a day or two of practice last week, but then he shows up and he has this explosive game, over 100 receiving yards, 2 touchdowns. He's blowing by people, catching a 10-yard out and going right down the middle of the field, outrunning everybody. Do you have any sense on how they're going to play this? Or do you think it's just, that old proverbial day-to-day kind of thing? What I mean by that is, I made reference a little earlier, if you put him on injured reserve, he's got to miss 4 weeks, right? 4 games?
Yeah, 4 games. So he would be out with the bye, and including Monday night's game against the Browns, he would be out until December.
So
to give you an idea,
do you just monitor his sort of rehab and his progress and day by day kind of see where you are? But you've forgotten more about it than I know about it. But when I was doing NFL games every week, I always found it kind of interesting when teams decided to put a guy on IR.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's what they're probably deciding today. And they'll make a decision by tomorrow if that's the case and they want to put him on injury reserve. Obviously, you want to do that before the Monday night game so it starts tallying and you could get those 4 games in. If I had to guess right now, yeah, I would think that they would do that. Just knowing the Bengals, knowing how unique this injury is. I don't think they're going to rush him back, right? This is the franchise. Outside of Joe Burrow, he's the best guy they have. And so you certainly don't want to rush him back. And four games, it is painful. But as you guys were talking about, this would be the 4-game stretch that you would hopefully be able to survive without him if there is a 4-game stretch the rest of the way. So I do think he'll ultimately end up on injured reserve. And I do think that they'll have to address the position somewhere, at least in the short term, because, well, they're really relying on their receivers. And now their best one isn't going to be there for at least 4 games.
Okay, so now you start playing the game of, and I'm not going to sit here and ask you anymore about the whole thing. Is he getting a second opinion, third opinion, whatever it might be, because this has just all happened so fast. And unless you have further,
and I'm sure he is.
Yeah,
I'm sure he is. Yeah, I'm sure he is because, look, it's a unique. This isn't a sprained ankle, right? It's a very unique thing, and all the reporting around it, based on what I've heard and others. I know Paul Dehner Jr. did a really good job of The Athletic talking about this and reporting on it. He feels fine. Like, I think Chase could play Monday, but he also has a fracture in that hip, and you don't want it to get worse. So he's not going to play, and they're going to try to get that bone healed. And that's the part of it. How long will it take for it to heal? That's why I think he ultimately lands on injured reserve.
Okay. How healthy is T. Higgins?
He's pretty healthy. I would say he's close to 100%. That ankle has gotten better and better, and you get an extra day this week. I think by the time Monday rolls around, he's going to have to be, certainly all systems go now regardless, but I think he's going to be as close to 100% as we've seen him since he tweaked that ankle back on Thursday Night Football against the Dolphins.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so we know about Higgins, we know about Boyd. I had referenced a minute ago, is Michael Thomas, that proverbial next man up, or do you suspect that we see a little bit more of Morgan, we see a little bit more of Taylor, or both, or neither, or do you make a deal? I know there's a lot in that question, but
Sure.
Let's start with Thomas first. Do you figure he's the first man up in this deal?
Yeah, I think he is, because he can play outside. They're comfortable moving him around. He obviously knows the system inside and out. We've seen him step in for T when T's missed time this season. And so I think that will be the answer on Monday. But as far as wide receiver in general goes, well, Stanley Morgan Jr. is dealing with a hamstring right now, and he missed practice yesterday. We'll see if he can go today. But it isn't just Jamar. And so that's why I would guarantee they add someone. It might not be a big name. It might not be a trade necessarily. It might just be working out guys and bringing someone in. They just need another receiver, and they need someone that can contribute, or at least give them some insurance at that spot. And unfortunately, I think the biggest loss, you could talk about playmaking and everything that Chase does, they don't have any scary outside speed now. Like deep downfield threats outside of T. Higgins, who scares you downfield if you're opposing defenses. And unfortunately for them, I don't think there are many guys that can do that out there on the free agent market. So if I'm them, I'm certainly looking at the trade market, because the way they use three receivers all the time, even when Chase comes back, you could use a fourth receiver, a deep threat, late December, early January, when the season's on the line, when you're playing for championships, whether it's the AFC North or advancing in the playoffs, all of those things, which is obviously what they plan on doing. And so that would be my thought process, considering their expectations this season.
All right, throw a few names at the folks watching tonight. The deal was made yesterday. Former number one pick, now going to Kansas City. Okay, so you check that name off the list. You talk about speed and a big play threat. I mean, the Ravens brought in Deshaun Jackson. That guy's always been that guy. Whether you like him or don't like him, that is what his career is. So now he's off the market. He was a free agent. But anybody trade-wise that maybe you think about?
It's tough. It's tough to pinpoint that, because you look at the Bengals, and it's not just give up a future asset, it's cap space. And they have a little over $3 million in cap space this season. And so it's like, all right, well, who are you going to add? I assume it would be a rookie contract. Well, that's a little more valuable, because the guys probably have more than 1 year left on their deal. I've seen Terrace Marshall being thrown out there. It's certainly interesting with the LSU ties to Burrow. Is Carolina really going to move on from a young, controllable player, second round pick in his second season? I don't know. I know the Bengals really like Denzel Mims the year they drafted T. Higgins in 2020. It hasn't worked for him in New York with the Jets. So maybe you try to snipe him from New York and bring him in. But it's tough, because you're right. There aren't many obvious guys. I could throw out big names and get people excited and say, go get Brandon Cooks. Well, is it going to work salary cap wise? And can you make that work? And are you going to do that if it is just for 4 games, with Chase out? I don't know. I don't know if they would be willing to go that route. DJ Moore, it sounds like the Panthers want a ton for him. I think he could do a lot of what Chase does, not at the level that Chase does, but from a football standpoint would make a lot of sense. I'm not sure if that's realistic, especially when you look at his contract. So there are a lot of guys. Jerry Jeudy's been a guy. KJ Hamler would be interesting from the Broncos. So there are guys. It's just, what's the price? Does it work financially? All of those things. And then the other part of it, and I wish I could give the Bengals truth serum, how long do you think Chase will realistically be out? Because if you think he's going to be out longer rather than shorter on that 4 to 6 weeks that Adam Schefter reported, then you might be willing to be more aggressive. But if you think it's, internally 3 to 4 weeks, and you think he's going to heal fast, well, then maybe you just try to sign someone. You mentioned Deshaun Jackson. If he was available, And he technically is because he's on the Ravens practice squad, but just looking at him on the sidelines with the Ravens, it doesn't sound like he's going to move, and they'll probably add him to the active roster in the near future. That would have been a guy that would make sense because he could split time with Michael Thomas and split time with Stanley Morgan Jr. and just give them a big play threat where they send him on 4 go routes a game just to keep the defense honest. I think that's something that they're going to miss and that they need to find. So those are just some of the names. The free agent market, unfortunately, there aren't many. Trade-wise, we know the Bengals' history. It's not like they make a lot of deadline deals. So it's going to be interesting. I certainly think they're going to listen and talk to teams. It's just, will it work money-wise? Will it work asset-wise? And will it make sense given how long or short Chase will be out?
All right, let's walk through a couple of other injury updates. Collins has been bothered by a bad back going all the way back to training camp, and now he's on the injury report with an ankle tweak. He's ready to go Monday night, I assume?
Feels like it, yeah. I talked to him Monday. He was limping around the locker room a little bit, but I think he'll be good to go. It doesn't sound like there's a huge amount of concern. And yesterday was his normal Wednesday rest day anyway, so they can list him as an ankle because he's got one now. But I think he was going to be off yesterday regardless. So we'll see if he suits up today.
All right, and what about I see where Logan Wilson, a full participant at practice. So, I mean, unbelievably, this guy, you talk about a fast healer. I mean, there was initial concern this guy was going to miss significant time, and it looks like, you tell me if I'm wrong, it looks like he's ready to go Monday night.
I think he was ready to go last week. And the team said, you know what, let's not risk it, even though you're moving well. And because I watched him on the rehab field. He was doing everything. He just didn't have pads on, but he was doing everything, every agility drill, catching passes above his head, moving his arms all over. And it's a shoulder injury, and it's that surgically repaired shoulder. And I just think they wanted to give him at least another week. You have the extra day this week ahead of the Monday night game. Yeah, I expect him to play, and not a moment too soon because they're going to need him to try to slow down. I don't think they can stop it, but slow down that tough Browns rushing attack.
And last injury, I guess it's diagnosed as a quote-unquote stinger. NFL players get these pretty regularly. They thought initially it might be a neck injury, but Hendrickson, do you expect he'll be at full tilt Monday night?
I think so. I think that's the way they're leaning. Hopefully we can, see him get out there and practice a little bit today. But yeah, and that's the thing. That's what was so surprising, not to ramble here, about the Chase aspect of it. Because yesterday at this time, you're thinking, oh, well, they're just giving him an extra day. He's sore. No, turns out it was much more serious, and those scans revealed something that they were hoping not to see, put it that way. So, I do think that Trey Hendrickson can suit up. And again, he's a huge piece of this defense, and a defense that they're going to need to lean on even more now with Chase out.
All right, let's talk about the game Monday night. I don't think it takes a rocket scientist to figure out that the Browns, I've called them a team right now in desperation. They've lost 5 games, 4 of those 5 by a combined 11 points. They're this close to being pretty good, but the bottom line is they're 2-5, so they can't close out games. They're going to want to run the ball. At least that's what you hear all the time, yet Jacoby Brissett slinging it around 27, 35, 40 times a game. What's your feeling on the Browns? You have inside sources at the Browns. There's been a lot of talk about Kevin Stefanski. Is he the right guy? And on and on and on and on. How do you see them coming into this game and their mindset against the Bengals on Monday night?
You're right. They're desperate. And that's what's scary about this game is, the last thing you ever want to do is face someone that's desperate. And I think that this is a woodshed game where they're going to pull out every trick, every single thing in the bag to try to escape with a victory on Halloween night. And it can be a season saver. You get to 3-5, it just feels much, much different than 2-6. And historically, you look at teams that fall to 2-6, you don't make a run. It doesn't matter if Deshaun Watson's coming back or when he's coming back. It doesn't matter. It's really, really hard to dig yourself out of that type of hole. And so I expect to see Nick Chubb early, often. I expect to see trick plays. I expect to see fake punts. I expect to see whatever it is that they need to do to try to get a win. And that's a tough spot for the Bengals, especially now, because you are going to be shorthanded on both sides of the ball. Your best player, arguably on defense, isn't going to play. We know that with DJ Reader. Jamar Chase, certainly your best skill player and arguably your best player, isn't going to play. So now you have to go on the road, face a desperate team. This is going to be a tough game. And right now you're facing the best running back in the league. I don't think that that's wrong to say about Nick Chubb. Kareem Hunt is showcasing his talent for the rest of the NFL because he's on the trading block. That is no secret. And plenty of people in Cleveland will tell you that. And so it's a desperate team that needs a win that, you're right, has been competitive. They're right in line with the Bengals. The Bengals have 3 losses by 8 total points, right? The Browns have 4 losses by 11. So if the Bengals lose a game by a field goal, they're right in that same boat. So think about how close those 3 losses for the Bengals were. That's how the Browns have been. And they're at home, and I know that stadium is going to be insane on Halloween. I mean,
no doubt.
It's going to be one of the craziest environments for an NFL game on Monday Night Football that I think there is all season long. So
I don't think
it's going to be a tough one, no doubt about it.
Any prediction for this one? Knowing what we know, with Chase out, Reader out, desperate team in Cleveland. Yeah. I mean, do you feel that? What's the last spread on this, Paul? 3.5? All right, it's down to 3. You think this is played within that spread?
I do. I think it's right. I think that's about right. To me, I think that it's going to be tough for the Bengals to get off to a quick start. And, you hope, if you're the Bengals and for the fans out there, that those first 15 plays really catch the Browns off guard and they're able to do things that get the ball moving, they can get out to an early lead. Because I think this offense is going to be inconsistent on Monday night because there's no Chase, because you don't have those playmaking abilities to hide the lulls and the ebbs and flows that naturally come on offense. I still think the Bengals should win this game from a talent perspective. I just think it's going to be really, really tough. So if I had to make a pick right now, and it's tough, but I would say 23-20, something in that range.
Yep.
And they're going to have to win ugly, I think, if they're going to win some of these games, because it's just losing a guy like Chase, even though you have a few practices to install things and you knew it was potentially coming. I think it's going to be tough for them to do what they've done on offense and put up 30-plus points like they have in back-to-back weeks.
Well, Jay, before we let you go, this is one of those things, and it makes me crazy. And I mean, it really does make me crazy. When you have a team that all of a sudden they have a couple of good weeks throwing the football, and you'll have people that follow the team that'll say, oh, you don't need to run the ball. They just threw the ball for 350 yards. This is a game. We saw what the Chargers did running the ball against the Browns. This is a game where the Bengals have to be able to run the ball, don't you think? I mean, really run the ball.
Sure. Yeah, that would be a huge, huge boost. It would take pressure off of Burrow. It would keep the defense on the sideline because they're going to take a beating. Like, it's going to be physical. They may hold Chubb in check, but it's gonna be tough. And so, yeah, I think if you can get that ground game going and the quick passing game, like those to me are one and the same. If it's dump offs to Mixon or Boyd or whoever the case is. So yeah, this offense is going to look different, and part of that might be running the ball. They've been better running out of shotgun, so wouldn't be shocked at all if that's how they do things. But do they move under center a bit more without Chase? It's going to be interesting. This offense is certainly going to look different, Tom. So I'm curious to see how it looks on Monday.
Well, this is one of those games, coaching. I mean, this is a big game for that coaching staff. There's no doubt about it. James, enjoy your trip back to Cleveland, Ohio, and we'll check in with you next week. Thanks for your time today.
Sounds good. Thanks, Tom. Appreciate it.
Great stuff with James Rapien. He filled in for Mo Egger. Was it yesterday or the day before? Did a great job.